Hey, you're being unreasonable. Right? How dare she scolds the others when she's the culprit? I've never seen someone as outrageous as her. Talk no more. Let's report her to the police. The crowd was annoyed at Jane's arrogance and pointed fingers at her. Shut up! All of you! Hands on her waist, Jane yelled at them, do you know that we're the Nicholsons from Glenstead? Even your mayor has to show us respect, let alone you worthless plebs. Make more fuss, and I'll get you arrested. The accusatory voices instantly died down. An average citizen would not want to get on the bad side of the famed aristocratic Nicholson family from Glenstead. Mom, just ignore those peasants. Look at this. I'm hit. The young woman, Dakota Nicholson, suddenly spoke up as she pressed against her wound and winced. Are you hurt? Let me take a look. Jane's expression crumbled, and she hurriedly checked out Dakota's injury. Gosh, it's bleeding. This is not good. Her face paled, and she scanned the surroundings until her eyes landed on Dustin. Hey, you're a doctor, aren't you? Quick, give my daughter a checkup. She's hurt. Anyone would have thought that Dakota contracted a terminal disease from the worried look on Jane's face. She's fine. It's just a scrape on the elbow. Dustin turned around and glanced at Dakota's injury before looking away. What do you mean? A scrape? Jane immediately looked irritated. My precious daughter has never suffered injuries. But she has a huge wound now. Of course we'll have to treat it with caution. What if an infection happens? If you're worried about wound infection, buy a Band-Aid at the pharmacy next door. If you keep dilly-dallying, the wound's going to heal by the time you get to it. Dustin mocked her. He had never seen a woman as ridiculous as Jane, who kicked up a fuss over a tiny wound. What did you say? How could you ignore my daughter's injury when you're a doctor? Are you even human, you fuckface? Jane was truly cross. No one had ever turned down her requests ever since she married into the wealthy Nicholson family. I have to set my priorities. This girl is fighting for her life. Your daughter's wound is nothing compared to hers. Dustin chided her. How dare you compare the peasant to my daughter? With a glare, Jane rebuked him. Dakota is the daughter of the Nicholson family. She's important and precious. You cannot compare her to a commoner. Yeah. She's just a nobody. Well, if she dies today, just consider it her wretched fate. The haughty Dakota towered over them. Treat my wound now. It's an order. If I get a scar from this, I will not let you off the hook. Are you even human? Nobody speaks in that way. That's right. Is a life worth less than your minor scrape? The indignant crowd gave their opinions. What now? Are you testing me? The audacity to talk back to the Nicholson family. Come here. Which one of you wants to be the hero? Jane hissed maliciously as the onlookers held in their rage in silence in the face of her insolence. Indeed, the average citizens were helpless when harassed and bullied by the rich. Madam, my daughter is in a critical state. Can you kindly allow her to get the treatment? Just think of this as my plea. The woman in white plopped onto the ground with teary eyes. Knock it off. I don't care. My daughter has to be treated first. Jane refused to budge. Are you deal? Do you hear what my mom said? Dakota kicked Dustin but was infuriated when the man showed no response. So, you're refusing to treat my wound. Great. Don't bother saving anyone today. With that, she went up to the young girl and pulled out the gold needle. With the gold needle removed, the young girl started bleeding profusely again, and her face grew paler because of that. Dustin frowned and spun around with a deadly stare in his eyes. Do you know what you're doing? You might kill someone by pulling out the needle without thought. So what? You can't save any life without my permission. Dakota crossed her arms on her chest, looking bold and arrogant. Jane chimed in with the same attitude. That's right. If you don't treat my daughter's wound, you won't get to save that useless commoner. Please show mercy and stop making things difficult for the doctor. I beg of you. The woman in white kneeled and pleaded to the Nicholsons, all while hitting her head on the ground. She knew she could not afford to get on the bad side of the wealthy. Her only wish was to keep her daughter safe. Try messing around again, and I won't go easy on you next time. Dustin warned Dakota. She scoffed. Oh! You got the guts, don't you? Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me in that way? Did you tell me not to touch anything? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. While speaking, she moved to remove the needle again. Get lost. Fuming, Dustin gave her a slap across the face. She yelped as she was flung 10 feet away, even rolling on the ground after landing. Her fair skin was red and swollen. She even lost a few of her dental laminates. Shit! That doctor is mad. How dare he slap a Nicholson? Being hot-blooded is one thing, offending the Nicholsons is another. He might suffer because of it. The crowd murmured and cast sympathetic glances at Dustin. How dare you hit me? Dakota got up from the ground, still a little dizzy and utterly baffled by Dustin's move. From a young age, she was treated like a princess wherever she went. She had never been slapped, not to mention being slapped in public. So what? Don't you deserve the slap for being rude? Dustin wore a hostile expression on his face. How dare you hit my daughter? I'm going to fight you. After the initial shock, Jane recovered and, her blood boiling, she launched an attack on Dustin. He merely slapped her, and she collapsed from the impact. The mother and daughter both fell flat onto the ground.